I'm sitting in the parking lot of a half-empty grocery store, engine off, windows cracked, the sun creeping over the horizon like it's mocking me. I haven't gone home yet. Not since it happened. Not since everything cracked and slid out of place like the floor gave way beneath me and all I could do was fall through it. This wasn't some slow decay. There weren't months of growing apart, distant glances, awkward silences. No. This was a scalpel through the skin of my life, sudden, clean, and deep. The day started like any other, but now I realized the silence between us wasn't peace. It was storage. She was storing her lies in the spaces between our conversations, hiding them like knives behind her back while I walked barefoot through the kitchen of our marriage. I didn't even notice. But then she asked me for space. Not like that. Not the we need to talk kind. She said she wanted to start taking yoga again for nights a week at some boutique studio downtown. She used to hate yoga. Said it made her wrists hurt. But suddenly she had all this interest. She even bought mats, candles, the whole setup. I didn't question it. Why would I? I thought maybe she was trying to better herself. I encouraged it. She left that night in workout gear that looked too calculated. Like she dressed to be seen, not to sweat. Her perfume hung in the hallway long after the door clicked shut. Something about the way it lingered made me uneasy. It wasn't her usual scent. It was sharper, almost theatrical. I tried to shake it off, but something pulled me to check her location on the app we always kept on for safety. No big deal, right? We shared our locations for years, but she had it turned off. First time ever. I stared at that grayed-out dot like it was a confession written in neon ink. I told myself maybe her phone died. Maybe she forgot. But I couldn't sit still. I drove to the yoga studio. It was closed. Not just closed, dark. Dead. No lights, no classes, no yoga. Just an empty building and my own breath fogging up the windshield. That's when something hit me hard. Not suspicion, clarity. And it didn't come gently. I drove back home faster than I should have. My hands weren't shaking, they were cold. Like all the blood had gone somewhere else. Somewhere deeper. Hiding from what was coming. She walked through the door 40 minutes later. Flushed, hair pulled back, mat in one hand, water bottle in the other like she just came back from war. She smiled. Smiled. "You're up late," she said, tossing her keys on the counter. I asked her how yoga went. She didn't even blink. Said it was intense. Said her instructor was pushing them hard lately. I asked for the name of the instructor. She laughed and said I wouldn't remember it. I asked her to try me, and right there, something shifted in her eyes. Barely, like a single gear catching the wrong tooth. But I saw it. She made up a name. The stupid one. I repeated it. She rolled her eyes and went to the fridge like we were done talking. But we weren't done. I followed her. Asked her again. This time she got defensive. Said I was being paranoid. That she just wanted a hobby. That I was being controlling. And then came the storm. Accusations. Reversals. Suddenly I was the one on trial. But something about the way she refused to meet my eyes told me everything I needed. So I said it. I asked her who he was. And that's when her face broke. Not into fear or guilt, but into rage. She laughed. Laughed in a way I had never heard before. Cold, clipped, cruel. Like she'd been waiting for me to figure it out so she could finally stop pretending. She told me I had no idea what kind of man she needed. Said I was too domesticated, too comfortable, too nice. Said I bored her. And that she didn't owe me any explanation because she deserved something that felt alive. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just opened the front door and told her to leave. She didn't even fight me on it. She packed a bag, said she'd be back for the rest, and walked out like she was going on a weekend trip. No apology. No shame. Just that perfume trail again and a door that closed too quietly behind her. I stood there in the hall, in the wreckage of our life, not even knowing where to begin picking up the pieces. I didn't even sit down. Just paced. My body didn't know what to do with itself. But that wasn't the end. About an hour later, someone knocked on my door. Loud, like they had a right to be there. And when I opened it, there he was. Her secret lover. On my porch. And he looked at me like I was the problem. He had the kind of face you want to punch even before he opens his mouth. Too smooth. Confident in a way that reeked of someone who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. Expensive jacket, smug posture, like he expected applause just for showing up. He didn't look nervous. No guilt. Not even a flicker of shame for standing at the door of the man whose life he just helped destroy. I didn't say anything. Just stared at him, waiting for whatever sick line he rehearsed in the car. "You must be him," he said, like we were meeting at a barbecue. My jaw tightened. I still hadn't moved. Still holding the door halfway open like I might slam it in his face or maybe just break it off its hinges and use it to put him through the railing. "I just came to talk," he added, hands raised slightly. Like he was the reasonable one. I asked him what he wanted. He said he needed to clear the air that she sent him. That she thought it was better if I heard it from him. My stomach turned. The audacity. The sheer, godless nerve. He stepped 1 foot over the threshold without being invited. I blocked the rest of him with my body. He noticed. Smirked a little like he liked the challenge. "Look, man," he said, "this thing between me and her, it wasn't supposed to be this serious. She told me it was already over with you emotionally, that you were just a roommate at this point." That line? I didn't respond right away. I was trying to decide if I wanted to destroy something or listen. He took my silence as permission to continue. "She said you wouldn't take it well. That you'd freak out. She didn't want to hurt you. She's been unhappy for a long time." I asked him how long it had been going on. He hesitated. Looked me up and down. I think he thought I'd break if he said it out loud. "About 6 months," he said. "Since that conference in Denver." "You weren't there, were you?" I laughed. It slipped out. Dry and hollow. "That conference? I booked the tickets for her. I'd packed her bags. Drove her to the airport. Kissed her goodbye and told her to have a good time. All while she was flying straight into his bed." He kept talking. Something about how it wasn't personal. How these things just happen. Like love was a misdelivered package that ended up at the wrong address and now he was just here to make the exchange. I asked him what he thought would happen. Did he think we'd shake hands? Bond over our shared betrayal? I wanted to ask what kind of man shows up like this, what kind of hollow thing you have to be to sleep with another man's wife and then come to his house like you're doing him a favor. He finally took a step back. Maybe he saw it in my eyes, whatever was bubbling just under the surface, whatever was coiled tight in my chest like it was ready to snap. He muttered something about giving it time, about no hard feelings, and walked back to his car. I stood at the door long after he drove off. Lights out. Silence thick. The kind of silence that's too big to carry. It presses on your ribs, sits on your shoulders. And then my phone buzzed. Her name on the screen. No apology. No begging. Just a message. "He said you were rude. I warned him you'd be dramatic." She didn't even deny it. She didn't care. She weaponized my pain before the wounds had time to bleed. That was the moment something in me died. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I sat on the floor in the hallway, back against the cold wall, staring at the front door like it was going to open again. Like he'd come back. Like she would. My limbs felt detached from my body. My hands wouldn't stop twitching. It was like my body couldn't decide whether to collapse or riot. The house felt different. Too clean. Too sterile. Her absence was already rearranging the air. And that text, that smug little message, was still burning in my phone. I warned him you'd be dramatic. Dramatic. As if catching her in the middle of a double life was just a scene I was performing. As if she was the victim of my reaction. I got up and went into the bedroom. Her scent still lingered on the sheets. I ripped them off and stuffed them into a trash bag. The candle she used every night before bed? Gone. Her drawer? Empty. She'd taken her essentials. Planned for this. Probably while I was making us dinner last week. Probably while I was massaging her shoulders like a fool, thinking I was easing stress when really I was just smoothing out the guilt she never even felt. By morning, I wasn't tired. I was electric. I felt like someone had pumped battery acid into my veins. I needed answers. Not the fake ones. Not the lines she fed him. I wanted to hear it from her mouth. I called her. She didn't pick up. I called again. Voicemail. So I sent one message. Come get your things. Today. I'm not storing your lies in my house. She replied within 10 seconds. Don't be crazy. I'll get them this weekend. I told her no. I told her I wanted every trace of her out of my life today. That she didn't live here anymore. That this was no longer her home. She said she was busy. That was it. Busy. That word hit harder than anything else. Told me everything. She didn't just cheat, she moved on. Like what we had was a layover. Like I was just a stop on her way to something better. And now she was busy with him, probably telling him what an emotional wreck I am. Probably comparing notes. Probably laughing. So I packed her things myself. Every drawer. Every closet. I didn't fold anything. I didn't preserve a single thread of decency for her. I shoved her carefully curated outfits, her little memory boxes, her photos, her favorite books into garbage bags and carried them to the garage like I was exorcising a ghost. And then I found something. Something that almost made my knees buckle. A box. Tucked behind her old yoga mat. Inside, letters. Dozens. Handwritten. From me. Every birthday, every anniversary, every random Tuesday when I felt like telling her how much I loved her, I wrote her letters. I thought it was romantic. I thought I was giving her something from the heart. She hadn't kept them out of love. She kept them like trophies. Each one folded perfectly. Untouched. Unread. Still crisp. Like she didn't even bother to open them. That's when I realized. She didn't just stop loving me. She might never have started. And that's not even the worst part. An hour later, she came back. Not alone. And not for her stuff. She wanted something else. She didn't knock. Just opened the garage door like she still had a key to this life. And behind her, he was back too. Standing there like they were arriving at a dinner party. Not walking into the scene of a personal apocalypse. She didn't look at the bags. She didn't look at me. She looked around like she was checking for damage. Like she was the one who'd been wronged. He stood behind her. Arms crossed. Jaw tight. This time, his smirk was gone. I didn't say a word. She walked straight past me, into the hallway like she owned it. Like she hadn't detonated a bomb and strolled away. She made it halfway to the bedroom before I spoke. What are you doing? She turned slowly. Calm. Calculated. Like she expected me to react and was just waiting to measure it. I forgot my necklace, she said. The necklace. A thin gold chain with a tiny stone. I gave it to her for our 3rd anniversary. I searched 3 cities to find it. She never took it off. Until, apparently, she did. I told her it wasn't in there. I knew because I checked every drawer, every corner. It wasn't left behind. She either took it already or left it on purpose. But this wasn't about the necklace. She crossed her arms. I know it's here. I looked at him. He was scanning the walls, the photos, the layout. Like he was mentally measuring the space she used to share with me. I could tell he hated that everything was still soaked in our past. He looked like he wanted to paint over it just by staring hard enough. Why is he here? I asked. She blinked. Because I didn't want you to get emotional. So that's what I was now. An emotional liability. A man reacting to betrayal is suddenly dangerous. Unpredictable. Something to be handled, not understood. He finally spoke. Look, man, we just want to make this transition smooth. No drama. That word again. Drama. As if this was a rehearsal. As if my life was a failed production and they were the replacement cast here to clean up the mess. She stepped into the living room, picked up one of the garbage bags, opened it, and sifted through her things like she was at a garage sale. Made a face like something smelled bad. Probably my memories. I told you not to touch my books, she said. I told her I didn't remember asking. And that's when she finally dropped the mask. Not all of it, just enough to let the poison slip through. You're embarrassing yourself, she said. Not even looking at me. This whole meltdown, this little get-out-of-my-house tantrum, you're not making it any easier. We could have done this like adults. I asked her if sleeping with another man behind my back for half a year was her definition of adult. She didn't flinch. It just happened, she said. Those words lit something in me I didn't know was still capable of catching fire. I stepped closer. Her lover moved like he was ready to step between us. I didn't care. You don't trip and fall into someone's life for 6 months, I said. That's not something that just happens. That's effort. That's time. That's betrayal with planning. She looked at me then. Really looked. And what I saw wasn't guilt. Or shame. It was contempt. Like she couldn't believe I was still talking. I outgrew this, she said, motioning to the house. To you. She picked up the necklace from her purse. She'd had it all along. This entire thing was a power play. She walked in not for the necklace, but to stand inside the ruins. To see what was left. To make sure I saw her winning. She turned to leave, but I stopped her with one question. Was any of it real? She paused at the door. Half-turned. And then, with the coldest voice I've ever heard from someone who used to kiss my forehead in the morning, she said, it was real for me. Until it wasn't. And then they left. Together. I didn't move for hours after they left. Just stood there in the hallway like a forgotten photograph frozen in the last frame of a film that ended wrong. I don't even remember sitting down, but eventually I found myself on the kitchen floor, knees bent, palms pressed to the cold tile. The silence in the house felt aggressive. It was like the walls themselves were ashamed to echo my breathing. I tried to remember a time when I felt loved. Not just tolerated. Loved. But all the memories had fingerprints now smudged and soiled. Nothing was clean anymore. Every smile I remembered felt like a trapdoor. Every hug a manipulation. I must have sat there until the sun started bleeding through the blinds. I didn't eat. Didn't speak. Just tried to organize the chaos in my head. But there was one thing I kept circling back to. Her face. That moment at the door when I asked if it was ever real. And she said, it was real for me. Until it wasn't. There was something wrong about the way she said it. Not just the coldness. The certainty. As if she was quoting something. So I opened my laptop. And that's when this whole thing spiraled into something I hadn't prepared for. I searched his name. Took a while to get it right. She'd only said it once. When she was arguing with me about who she deserved. But once I typed it in, everything changed. He wasn't some random guy. He wasn't just some coworker she clicked with at a conference. He was married. Wife. Kids. A dog. The whole suburban layout. Pictures. Posts. An entire digital footprint of a family man. And the most recent photo? Taken 3 weeks ago. Beach day. Matching outfits. Sandcastles. And the caption. So grateful for another year with my beautiful wife. I stared at the screen, trying to force the pieces into place. But they didn't fit. They weren't even from the same puzzle. This wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just her cheating. This was a pattern. I dug deeper. Through forum posts, comment threads, LinkedIn profiles. And it kept unraveling. Turns out he's done this before. More than once. There were whispers online, rumors of workplace affairs, destroyed homes, HR complaints buried under silence. And then I saw a post. It wasn't about him. It was about her. Anonymous. But the details lined up. Too closely. A woman talking about her ex-friend. Said she used to brag about collecting men in committed relationships. Said she called them temporary upgrades. Said she liked taking something that wasn't hers, liked the game of it, the thrill of being wanted more than a man's wife. I read it 3 times. 4. My heart wasn't racing. It had slowed, like it was saving energy for something worse. That's when the last piece clicked. She hadn't been a victim of his charm. She was the architect. I thought I was the only one deceived. But no. He was being played too. And neither of us had seen it coming. But here's the part that shook me the most. While I was still staring at my screen, still processing the chaos, an email pinged. From him. Subject line, we need to talk. No body text. Just an attachment. A recording. I didn't open the file right away. I stared at it like it was ticking. Just the sight of that little paperclip icon made my hands sweat. I was past anger at this point. Past heartbreak. I wasn't even sure what I was feeling anymore. The pain had shapeshifted into something unfamiliar, something silent and slow, like a fever that hadn't broken yet. The subject line haunted me. We need to talk. Not sorry. Not I didn't know. Not even an explanation. Just that. Like we were 2 partners in a sinking ship trying to divide blame before we drowned. But I opened it. Of course I did. It was an audio file. A recording less than 2 minutes long. No context. And the first voice I heard, hers. Laughing. Not a soft laugh. Not amused. This was sharp. Mean. The kind of laugh someone uses when they know they've won. Then her voice, clear as day, he thinks I'm in love with him. Isn't that insane? I told him I was done with my husband and he actually believed it. Men are such desperate creatures. Silence. Then his voice quieter, unsure. So, you're not actually leaving him for me? She giggled again. God, no. You think I want to deal with your mess? I just needed a distraction. You were convenient. And hey, the drama was fun while it lasted. My stomach dropped. The world around me warped, muffled, blurred. I was no longer in my kitchen, I was inside that recording, inside her words, watching the truth stretch its arms and settle into my life like it owned the place. He spoke again. You said you loved me. Another laugh. Yeah, well, I say a lot of things. That's kind of my thing. The file ended. I sat there, blinking, breathing through my teeth. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was strategy. She hadn't fallen for someone else. She hadn't been confused or caught in a moment. She was playing us. Both of us. And she was proud of it. But what stunned me wasn't just the manipulation, it was that he sent it. That he, the man who stood in my doorway trying to act superior, had finally realized he was never in control. And now he was reaching out to me. Not as a rival. As a fellow victim. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. It was him. His voice was hollow. Broken in a way it hadn't been when he stood in my house. He said he had questions. He said he didn't know who else to talk to. He said she'd ghosted him, vanished, blocked his number, unfollowed him, disappeared like none of it ever happened. She used me, he said. I thought she loved me. I didn't know about the others. The others. I asked what he meant. He hesitated. Then he said her name wasn't even the one she gave me. That's when I knew this went way deeper. And if I wanted real answers, I'd have to find them myself. I ended the call without another word. My pulse was steady, but everything else inside me was warping, bending around a truth that no longer had edges. I sat in silence for a long time, replaying every second of the recording, of the phone call, of that moment he said, that's not even her real name. It was like I'd been living with a ghost. A woman I married, slept beside, shared a life with, she didn't even give me her real identity. Every birthday we celebrated, every signature she wrote, every legal document, was it all a lie? Had she forged her way into my life like she forged her way into his? Into others? I went back online. Not to social media. Deeper. Background search tools. Records. I had to see it with my own eyes. I plugged in every version of her name I knew. Nothing. Then I searched by phone number. A hit. But not under her name. Under an alias. There were multiple entries. Different cities. Same birth date, different names. A trail of half-lives stretching back nearly a decade. Job applications, leases, social handles with faces blurred. Profiles locked. No consistency. No clean past. And then something jumped out. An old address. Small town 2 states over. She'd never mentioned it. But there it was. Tied to a woman with her face but a different last name. So I called the number listed on that file. An older woman answered. She was hesitant at first, but when I explained, when I described the woman I thought I married, there was a pause. And then she said, "You're not the first one to call." That sentence knocked the wind out of me. The woman on the other end introduced herself as Anne. She said she used to live next door to her, years ago before she disappeared. Said she always got strange feelings from her. Said she went by Melanie back then. Lived with a man. Quiet guy. Kind. One day he just vanished. Told neighbors they'd split and he moved away. No one saw him again. And said the girl stayed for another few months. Then packed up and left overnight. She changes skin every few years, she said, her voice low, almost afraid. And she always leaves behind a wreck. I asked if she knew where she went after that. She didn't. But she gave me one thing. A storage facility name. One shed once seen the girl visit every few weeks. Said she thought it was odd how often she went. Said it was like she was protecting something. I looked it up. It still existed. 3 towns away from where I lived now. And suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. I was hungry. Hungry for answers. For closure. For the truth, no matter how jagged or buried or cruel it might be. I grabbed my keys and drove. No music. No calls. Just the road and a heat in my chest that felt like it would burn my ribs from the inside. The storage facility was old. Gated. A woman at the front desk asked for ID. I told her who I was looking for. She hesitated, then scanned her files. And then she said something that changed everything. She hasn't been here in over a year. But the unit's still active. Paid in advance. She handed me the unit number. The door was rusted. The padlock was newer. Clean. Deliberate. I cracked it open. And inside boxes. Labeled. Sorted. Not like someone hiding. Like someone preserving something. Photos. Journals. IDs. Names. Letters. I sat on the cold cement floor holding a journal with a name I didn't recognize. And on the first page, rules for disappearing. I flipped the pages with fingers I didn't recognize, slow, mechanical, like my body was moving ahead of my brain, like some deeper part of me already knew what I was about to find. The handwriting was hers. I would have known it in the dark, underwater, half-conscious. It had always been neat, sharp, deliberate. Even her lies were tidy. But this was something else. It wasn't a diary. It wasn't confessional. It read like a manual. A blueprint. Rules for disappearing. Rule number 1, always be the version they need first. Then slowly become the version they fear leaving. Rule number 2, never give a real name. Not even a middle one. Not even to yourself. Rule number 3, don't love. Study. Mirror. Adapt. Make them fall into their own reflection. Page after page, it wasn't just strategy, it was performance. Timelines. Notes on voices, expressions, how long to maintain eye contact. How to cry without tears. How to fake childhood trauma. And then an entire section dedicated to me. My name. My job. My family. Things I told her in trust, written down like observations in a science experiment. He believes love is earned through loyalty. Use that. Reward his trust by testing it. Repeat until he becomes dependent on your approval. I felt my chest crack open. Like air had been punched out of me. I flipped through more pages. There were others. Notes on them too. Men she'd collected. Traits. Weaknesses. Which ones broke clean, which ones begged. Each one reduced to tactics. And then I found the folder. Photos. Physical photos. Not printed from a phone, actual camera shots. Black and white. Old school surveillance style. Blurry but unmistakable. People I didn't recognize. Men and women. Most of them looking over their shoulder like they sensed they were being watched. And at the bottom, my face. At a park. Sitting on a bench with her. She was turned toward me, laughing. I was mid-sentence. I don't remember this photo being taken. I don't remember her holding a camera. But there it was. Labeled in pen, 3rd month engagement phase. I stood there, surrounded by evidence of a person I never knew, never even guessed existed. All those years together, all those moments, those nights, those trips meant to her what a chessboard means to a player, just strategy and squares. But what broke me wasn't the notes. Not the photos. Not even the rules. It was the final page. A letter. Addressed to no one. Or maybe to me. Maybe to all of us. You will hate me. You'll call me every name you can think of. But deep down, you'll realize I never forced you to stay. You stayed because I let you believe I was something rare. That's on you. Your need. Your story. I just stepped into it. That's all I ever do. I stood, knees shaking, vision narrowed to a tunnel of fire. I didn't know what this was anymore. A scam? A compulsion? Was she a criminal? Predator? Or something even more dangerous? Someone who truly believed none of this was wrong? And yet, she'd left this all behind. She wanted to be found. Or maybe she was done hiding. Maybe this was a breadcrumb, a final taunt. One last twist of the knife. But I wasn't bleeding anymore. I was planning. I took the journals. All of them. Photos too. Locked the unit and told the clerk she wouldn't be needing it anymore. And then I made a decision. I was going to find her. Not to win her back. Not to scream. Not even for revenge. I just wanted one thing, to look her in the eye and ask her who the hell she really was. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother. Not my best friend. Not even the guy from the recording, the man she played as viciously as she played me. I didn't want anyone slowing me down, telling me to let go, warning me about closure and how it's just a prettier word for unfinished. No. I needed to see her. I needed to feel whatever truth sat behind those eyes, whether it was a flicker of guilt or just the cold stare of someone who had mastered the art of feeling nothing. The journals became my compass. I read through them again and again, tracing patterns. There were symbols she used, code words, weird shorthand that started to make sense the more I immersed myself. She had routines. Not just behavioral, but geographic. Every few years, a new city. A fresh alias. A reinvented past. There was one note near the end that stood out. Small towns are easier to vanish from, but harder to re-enter. If I ever circle back, it has to be through someone new. Someone unaware. Circle back. That meant she'd return somewhere she'd already been. She didn't just erase her past. She revisited it. Like it was a test. Like she wanted to know if she could fool everyone twice. So I traced her trail backward, not forward. State by state. Place by place. And then I found her. Not in a bustling city. Not in a faceless crowd. A town called Windmere. Pop 4000. One main street. One diner. One post office. One woman living under a new name, working as a grief counselor. That was her final evolution. Helping people stitch themselves back together. After she'd spent years learning how to tear people apart. I drove out there. 8 hours, non-stop. I didn't eat. I didn't turn on the radio. I memorized the layout of the town on the way. Read every local news article, every clinic review. She was beloved. People called her empathetic, a gift easy to open up to. And there she was. I saw her through the window of the counseling center. Hair longer. A little darker. Glasses now. She looked softer. Like she'd shed the skin of the manipulator and stepped into something saintly. She was comforting a client. I watched her put a hand on the woman's shoulder, tilt her head in that way she always did when she wanted you to feel safe. That same angle she used on me, the one that made me think she understood me. I waited, parked across the street, until the sun dipped and the building lights flickered off. She came out alone. No coat, just a scarf. Still walked like she carried secrets in her spine. I got out of the car, stepped onto the sidewalk. She didn't notice me at first. Not until I said her real name. Not the one I married. Not the one from the journals. The one from the storage unit. From the very beginning. Her body froze mid-step. She turned slowly. Her face blank. Not scared. Not surprised. Just reading me. Like I was another man she had to assess. Categorize. File under useful or not. I asked her if she remembered me. A pause. Then the smallest smile. I was wondering when you'd show up. Like she'd been waiting. Not running. Not hiding. Waiting. We stood on that sidewalk like the world around us had gone mute. Windmere disappeared. The air between us was thick, but she didn't flinch, didn't shift, didn't reach for a lie or an apology. She just stared at me with that infuriating calm, the same calm she used to wear when I'd ask if everything was okay and she'd respond with, "Of course it is." You worry too much. I asked her why. Not, "Why did you cheat?" Not, "Why did you lie?" Not even, "Why me?" Just that one word. Why? And she looked at me like I'd missed the point of everything. Because I could, she said. There was no remorse. No softness. It was the kind of honesty that hits harder than any slap ever could. Not cruel, not proud, just factual. Like telling me it was Tuesday. I asked her how many. She tilted her head. Does it matter? I didn't answer. She stepped closer. You want to hear that you were special, right? That what we had was different. Then, after a pause, you were. In your way. But so was everyone else. That's the part you never understand. She said she didn't destroy people. She revealed them. That she gave them what they wanted, a fantasy, a mirror, a need fulfilled. And when they broke, it wasn't because of her, it was because they believed too hard in what wasn't real. You fell in love with the story you built around me, she said. I just played the part. I asked if it was all a performance. The letters, the promises, the late-night confessions. She didn't even blink. It's only a performance if I don't believe it in the moment. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her and shake the truth loose, force her to feel the weight of what she'd done. But there was nothing to grab. She was empty in all the wrong ways, like a room with furniture but no warmth. Like a painting that's technically perfect and emotionally vacant. So I said the last thing I ever needed to say to her. You don't destroy people because you're broken. You destroy people because it makes you feel powerful. Her smile disappeared. That was it. That was the only thing that touched her. Just for a second, the mask cracked. Just for a blink, I saw the void behind her eyes flicker with something like offense. And then she nodded. You're finally learning, she said. Good. And she walked away. No goodbye. No tears. Just turned and vanished into the town that didn't know her yet. I stood there until she was gone. Then I got in my car and drove. I didn't feel peace. Or closure. Those are myths people tell themselves to survive the aftermath. What I felt was clarity. I'd seen the truth, the raw, sharp, undressed truth, and it didn't destroy me. She was never real. Not in the way I needed. And maybe that's the lesson. Not everyone who touches your heart was meant to stay. Some are there to burn it down so you finally learn how to rebuild it right. So here's my advice for anyone reading this, anyone who feels the rug pulled out from under them by someone who smiled while doing it. Don't chase their why. Don't drown in their absence. Just walk. Keep walking. Even when your legs shake. Even when the air feels like glass in your lungs. Because the truth is, some people weren't a mistake. They were a warning. And I finally heard it.